Finally, time for the main event of the evening. UFC São Paulo, Jailton Almeida taking on Derrick Lewis. And Lewis really getting a big opportunity in this main event, putting himself back up there once again. His last time out, a big-time first round flying switch knee to ground and pound knockout win over Marcos Rogério de Lima. I'm sure the Brazilian fans are going to be amped about that. And if you can believe it, for Derrick Lewis, I mean, having all of this UFC experience, having 2 title fights, one for the interim belt against Ciryl Gane, one for the real McCoy at UFC 230 against Daniel Cormier. This is just the 4th fight for Derrick Lewis in his UFC career and his career in general. Outside of the United States, he's fought in New Zealand against Marc. He fought in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada against Travis Brown, and he fought in Zagreb, Croatia against Gabriel Gonzaga years ago, getting a finish win there. But this is, of course, a giant clash of styles, and we can really just talk wax poetic about Derrick Lewis and his knockout abilities. But for Jailton Almeida, this guy is a takedown artist that few know of. And now the wrestling superstar, formerly known as Edge, now by his real name, Adam Copeland, over with AEW.
The rated R superstar.
He made the spear famous. Jailton Almeida has been in the UFC for 5 fights. Against Danilo Marques, it took 7 seconds. Parker Porter, 3 seconds after a front kick. Against Anton Turkalj, 12 seconds. Against Shamil Durkimov, a front kick caught, a left hook eaten for his troubles, and then, 8 seconds. And then against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, 4 seconds. What does all that mean? Jailton Almeida takes an average of just over 6 seconds to land his first takedown attempt in his UFC fight.
He knows what he's good at.
It's insane. So, the ultimate takedown artist is Jailton Almeida. You know how good his grappling is, his submission ability, his ability to soften up his opponents, wrap the legs, and then get to the back. It's second to none in this division, and he's on a rocket ship to the top. So, he gets a big opportunity, it's a really big name, and Lewis gets to silence critics once again.
It's an interesting matchup, because we can go on, like you said, for as long as we want to about how much of a clash of styles this is. But the biggest question mark I have about Jailton Almeida at this stage of his career is, when will he start to get predictable with some of those takedown attempts? Because that's
I don't know, 6.8 seconds.
But the problem is, when are people going to be able to take advantage of that factor? Because everybody knows it's coming. So how are you going to stop it? It's very similar to Damian Maia when he was on his run, right? Everybody knows he's going for the rear naked choke, but he just kept on getting it on every single fighter. And for Almeida, I do think at a certain point he is going to face that test, and that's why I was so excited for the Curtis Blaydes fight, because for whatever critiques that you want of Curtis Blaydes' game, the guy can grapple. Like, he is an absurdly good wrestler. And I think we would have seen Jailton Almeida on his back. In a situation like that, it would have been really interesting to see how he would have done. Now, Curtis Blaydes isn't the aggressive fighter he was in that Overeem fight. That would look insane if he would do that every matchup. But I think it really would test Almeida and the totality of his skill set in the gas tank as well, to see him get out of some of those bad positions. Whereas this fight is really... And you hate to sound like such a meathead, but it is the truth. Can Lewis land that one big shot? And I know for him that one shot can come in a variety of different ways. We've seen him throw spinning back kicks in person. He won his last fight by double switch knee, like you said. Like, the guy has that one knockout punch, but he has it available in a plethora of different ways. I just worry that that's not enough against somebody like Jailton Almeida, who's shown how dominant he can be. And the thing, I know what you're going to say, probably not, but Derrick Lewis, he could just get up. And that is going to be a factor, because Derrick Lewis does have surprisingly good grappling defense, I would say. He can't get stuck in bad positions, but his ability to just simply get back up to his feet has been quite impressive. Almeida's just such a dominant presence in that position, though, and like you said, he throws the ground and pound, and that's going to keep your hands occupied up here and not getting back up to your feet.
I mean, UFC 293 to now, you look at all of the main events. You had Strickland beating Adesanya. You had the draw Grasso Shevchenko. You had Gamrot beating Fiziev. Green beating Dawson. Barboza beating Yusuf. It's all of these veterans getting wins and all of these underdogs getting wins. Now, Makhachev beat Volkanovski, and that kind of set the trend back into the normal way. But when you do look at this fight, Matt, for Derrick Lewis, tied at the top. I mean, 5th all-time in finishes at 14. Number 1 all-time in UFC history with 14 knockouts with the promotion. Wow. He's got 8 bonuses in his time. And again, he's 2-1. It's a limited sample size, but 2-1 outside of the United States. And the last time he fought outside of the U.S. was in 2017 against Marc Hunt, and he got finished, and he didn't look very good.
Yeah,
but again, Travis Brown was 2017 at the start of the year. You got the win there, and of course, the win over Gabriel Gonzaga years and years ago in Zagreb, Croatia. You look at this one, Lewis is the underdog. We threw it out there to you in the YouTube community tab. but put it as a picture to see what the results would be. A lot more. Hottest of dogs doesn't want to see us go. Daniel, gotta be Almeida in round 2. We've got Richard Koshorek saying Derrick Lewis by KO TKO, and Fui saying Almeida by submission mat. A lot of people in the comments are going Jailton Almeida. Topology has Almeida. We might as well go to the percentage on Topology too, just to see.
I'm gonna over say 95. You think?
I'm gonna say over. It's under. Look at that. 1,376 total votes. 87% Almeida. 79% by submission. For the 13% that have Lewis, 95% have to win by knockout. And if you look at it for Lewis in terms of submission losses, there's only been about 3. But I look at them like, you think about Daniel Cormier.
He's been put in bad positions.
Yeah, that one was by submission. Even...
Well, like, Oleinik got him in the submission. He just couldn't complete it because Derrick Lewis is too big.
He's got a big neck. And Lewis has that just get up mentality. He's got the buzzer beater coming back. And if this goes past a first or a second round, what's Jailton Almeida going to look like? Because he did have a main event against Rosenstrike, but it was over. It also didn't have the juice of being a fight in your home country.
Exactly.
In the apex. So
emotional.
For Jailton Almeida, a big shot. Do you think he gets someone over Derrick Lewis?
Derrick Lewis, you do want to believe in spurts, right? Like, he's a little bit like Gordon Hayward on the Charlotte Hornets. If you watch him every now and then, you're like, hey, he's still a really good player. Then you watch for a full game, and it's like, hey, the injuries have taken their toll. He's not the guy he used to be. And for Derrick Lewis, you kind of have to look at him in the same light. I know heavyweights can last on for a lot longer because power's normally the last thing to go. But Derrick Lewis, earlier on in his career, was pretty quick, too. And he's still athletic, I would say, for how big he is and the age that he's at. But you do worry that the losses and some of those injuries, too. You bring up the Marc Hunt fight. The lasting image in my head of that Marc Hunt fight is just him holding his back. He's had a lot of issues with his back. That's something that never, like, you can get over it, but you can still have issues with it for a long time. So I have Jailton Almeida, but I bring up his predictability on purpose. I think at a certain point, someone is going to take advantage of the fact that, hey, he's going to shoot from a mile away. If I just backpedal immediately, I can probably avoid the first one. And if you can make him pay on some of those in-betweens, and like you said, get him in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th round to place Derrick Lewis has been much more than Jailton Almeida, maybe he can win this fight.
Lewis lost to Tuivasa, Pavlovich, and Sergey Spivak before he was able to right the ship his last time out against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He was favored to beat de Lima. I didn't think Lewis was going to beat de Lima, and I certainly didn't think he was going to beat him that quick. He did. So now he comes into this fight against Jailton Almeida. And again, when you count a guy out like Derrick Lewis, you mentioned the New Zealand fight against Marc Hunt. Since he fought Marc Hunt, he got 2 title shots. So he was able to overcome and oversee some big-time wins in his own right. I think Jailton Almeida is going to be able to get it done in this matchup simply because he's able to get the takedowns early. He's been able to get them often. And the other part about it for Jailton Almeida, shooting for your first takedown in 5 fights at an average of 6.8 seconds is great. But look at what Sergey Spivak was able to do 2 fights ago against Derrick Lewis. It was 5 or 6 takedowns in a round. And Spivak's able to go out there and get the finish. So it probably won't come as a surprise to many that we're both going with Jailton Almeida in the matchup. But there's some really big fights in this card. I know I went with a fair amount of like oddball underdogs on it, but I think there's going to be a lot of really close, really interesting fights. There's 13 as of Sunday night when we tape this. Lucas Alexander kind of out there, doesn't have a fight with David Onama anymore. So if anything does change on this card, from now until UFC 296, you can find us here at Fighting Apex. We'll update you as best we can. But again, I know there's some really interesting ones, and you mentioned a really fun possible fight of the night that's on this card. There's a lot of those out there.
There definitely is. I love the Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos versus Rinat Fakhretdinov fight. It's a fun fight to be earlier on the whole entire card. The Petrino Bukauskas fight should be a really fun one as well. And of course, Magomedov versus Bahalio. That should be a really interesting one because the winner of that's probably going to get a big name opponent their next time out.
So many clashes of styles. You can find us on X and Instagram at Craig Allen FMP, at Matt Allen FMP. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fighting Apex. We always say, let's get into it.